Welcome back to Snetterton, everybody, and our first race this weekend for the Michelin Ginetta Junior Championship around the Snetterton 300 circuit, a layout that's over the years provided some of the very closest Ginetta Junior racing action in its long and storied history, and we're hoping to see more of the same over the course of the weekend. One race today, two races tomorrow, and a championship that seems to be getting more and more competitive now with every round. Yes, there is one driver dominating. There's no getting away from the fact that Freddie Slater is highly likely to win this championship with a number of rounds to spare, but the racing has been as close as ever with Ginetta Juniors. He has had an incredible hit rate as far as race wins are concerned. Freddie Slater, 11 race wins so far this season. He never seems to win by very much, and that's what makes the racing hugely exciting. Track temperature just starting to dip now slightly as we move into the closing stages of the day. It's 20 to 6 local time, but still 28 degrees. It's still nice and warm here. That breeze blowing through the circuit has eased off ever so slightly, and so the spectators who have stuck around till the end of the day are going to be enjoying the conditions and hopefully enjoying what should be an exciting race. It's a very important race, this one as well, in the championship's history. It is the 450th Ginetta Junior race, and well, this is a championship that has produced some truly incredible talent over the years. It's produced some incredibly exciting races over those years too, and well, let's hope that the 450th is one that will be remembered. It could well be one that is remembered for a long time by Freddie Slater, the championship leader. He is due to start this race from the outside of row number 1, which indeed he will, missing out on the pole position therefore after qualifying earlier. But if he can come home and win the race, it will be his 12th victory of the season, and that will break the record for the most number of victories over the course of one season in Ginetta Junior racing, a record currently or it will match, I should say, the record held currently by Jamie Caroline. So Jamie Caroline won 12 races in his championship-winning season, and he is, sorry, the record for the most wins in a single season he's already broke. It is the career victories, I'll get this right in a moment, that he is on course to match if he can win this one. And Jamie Caroline, of course, has gone on to enjoy a very strong career in GT racing, and one of the most highly regarded driver coaches out there as well is Jamie, and well, Freddie Slater looking to follow in his footsteps. There is the number 7 car then that starts from pole position. Some of the stats that go along with Freddie Slater this season are simply incredible. He's led at least one lap in each of the 15 races so far this season. The championship record, incidentally, is 17 races led. Well, we're only halfway through the season, so that, it seems, is very likely to be broken. He's already led more racing laps this year than any other driver in Ginetta Junior history, 131 laps led so far this year, and has 4 pole positions from 6 qualifying sessions so far. Of course, did miss out on that pole, though, in this morning's qualifying session, and he missed out on that pole position by about a 1/10.5 over his teammate at our racing, Reza Samurathan. So Reza Samurathan it is who got the pole, and will be looking to try and fend off Freddie Slater over the course of the 20 minutes, but as we've seen, that's been very difficult to do. Freddie may have led every race so far. He's won most of them, but he doesn't tend to lead the whole thing. There have been very few races this year in which he's led every lap, and here at Snetterton, plenty of overtaking opportunities, a couple of long straights to slipstream as well. It's unlikely that he'll have an easy ride this afternoon either. So the crowd gathers, the grid is gathered as well. We're just waiting, I think, for a bit of clean-up after our previous GB4 race to get the cars released onto their green flag lap. But our racing very much dominating in qualifying earlier on today. As ever with Ginetta Juniors, teamwork is hugely important in those qualifying sessions because of the strength of the slipstream. And Reza Samurathan, Freddie Slater and Mikey Porter worked well together to get their 3 cars in that order to the front of the grid. Then Finn Harrison and Chase Fernandez for Assetto Racing were next, and then 2 Elite Motorsport cars. Hugo Schwarzer and Charlie Hart were next fastest. However, Hugo Schwarzer is one of a couple of drivers worth watching in this one because he was handed a 3-place grid penalty from the previous round, so although he qualified 6th, he will start from 9th on the grid. And his teammate, one of his teammates anyway, Alicia Palmovsky, you can just see her there in the yellow and black car, starting 13th as well after a disappointing qualifying session. So a couple of drivers should be moving forward. At the front though, Reza Samurathan and Freddie Slater, that is your R Racing front row. Their teammate Mikey Porter starts third, ahead of Finn Harrison for Assetto Racing in fourth. His teammate Chase Fernandez is fifth, ahead of another of the, in fact the first of the elite cars in Charlie Hart. Henry Jocelyn and Adu Robinson are next. They share the fourth row of the grid. Row 5 is where you find Hugo Schwarzer, the German youngster, after his penalty from Silverstone that was carried over. Luca Hopkinson for R Racing completes the top 10. Then it's Tom Spragg in the second Prep Tech UK car. Fox Motorsports Mackenzie Douglas is 12th on the grid, and then Alicia Palmovsky 5th in the championship, 5 times a podium finisher this season, but she will start only 13th alongside Freddie Allen, her Elite Motorsport teammate. Then it's Harry Moss and Felix Livesey together on row number 8 in the back row of the grid. We will find Holly Mile on her own in the last of Fox Motorsport prepared cars. So, cars then working their way around the infield section, and yeah, a couple of drivers, as I've said, a little out of position on this grid, and they are going to be itching to try and move forward. You've got to try and do it quickly though, because we've seen a few times this year a lead group kind of forming at the front, and with 3 R Motorsport teammates lining up at the front of the grid, that's quite likely, I'd say, to happen in this one too. If those 3 do decide to work together in the early stages, and the cars behind aren't able to challenge them, particularly the Assetto Racing pair, Finn Harrison and Chase Fernandez, if they can't disrupt the R Racing cars on the opening lap, then those 3 could pull away, and by that point, once they break a couple of seconds up the road, the rest aren't going to catch them. So particularly for the likes of Hugo Schwarzer and Alicia Palmovsky coming from further down the order than they should be, they're going to be hoping that the leaders do not make a break for it in the early stages. So, going to be a fascinating race this, the 450th in championship history, and Freddie Slater looking to match that record for career victories in Ginetta Juniors. Will have to beat Reza Samurathan, who is looking for his first win of the season. It's odd, at the start of the season, I kind of had Reza Samurathan down as one of the championship contenders, really, and he is 6th in the points and well within touch for a top 3 position, but for some reason, despite a relatively promising start to the season at Alton, he's just not really been able to get into the top 5 with the regularity that I thought he would, and he's hunting down his first career Ginetta Junior victory. Mikey Porter, likewise, who starts 3rd. So that's another interesting dynamic, isn't it? Freddie Slater's up there with his teammates with whom he worked together so efficiently in qualifying, but actually now they're all going for their own glory. They're all going for their own race victories. His 2 teammates around him haven't won yet. Freddie Slater's had the lion's share of the victories, and so in their opinion, I'm sure, it's about time we let someone else have a go. And I'm sure he's not going to agree with that, but I wonder how efficiently they'll work together in a race situation, particularly as we get into the final third of the race, where they're going to be playing for all the marbles, so to speak, and going for that race win. Does that then allow the Assetto Racing cars to move in and challenge? So Samurathan then pulling on to pole. Finn Harrison up there, also yet to win a race. Chase Fernandez 5th on the grid, has had a couple of race victories. The race victories for him both coming at Silverstone last time. In fact, he won the first and the last race of Ginetta Festival for the Ginetta Juniors, did Chase, which more than made up, I'm sure, for his disappointing visit to Silverstone at the start of the year, where he crashed out on the opening lap of race 1 and never really was able to fully recover from that. But what does our opening race here at Snetterton have in store for us? Race number 450 in the Ginetta Junior Championship, and Reza Samurathan heads up an all-R Racing top 3 on the grid. Freddie Slater alongside. Rev starting to rise then, 20 minutes on the clock. The lights go out now, and it's not a great start initially there by Freddie Slater. Tries to pull in front of one teammate and behind the other, which he did. That almost looked choreographed, that, didn't it? I wonder whether that was the plan all along. That allows Finn Harrison, though, to break ranks to the outside in the number 38 car. They're 3 and 4 wide behind as they sweep into the first corner. Hugo Schwarzer there, the 33 car, tried to make progress, but he has got the 51 up the inside of him, of Adu Robinson. Out wide over the curbs, further back goes Luca Hopkinson, as Freddie Slater goes to the outside of Reza Samurathan into the Wilson hairpin. Both of them running a bit wide. There's a bit of hip and shouldering going on further back. Somehow, I think they're all going to get out of the corner more or less in one piece, although still on the grass is Luca Hopkinson, who seems to have spent the entirety of this first sector so far with at least 2 wheels off the racing surface. out of Palmer's, down towards Agostini. Despite all of that shuffling, I think the leading group are largely in the same order that they started. The only change being that Chase Fernandez has got ahead of his Assetto teammate Finn Harrison. That the change for fourth, as there for sixth, Charlie Hart defends from the 26 of Henry Jocelyn, also still in grid order. Hugo Schwarzer making progress around the outside, though, has gained a position now from where he started. He's ahead of Aidan Robinson, and will be looking to try and make more ground up if he can. So halfway around the opening lap, top two maybe starting to make a bit of a break. Mikey Porter was a further 3/10 slower than Freddie Slater in qualifying, about half a second away from the pole time. So just struggling to live with those two in the early stages, and that means he's got the Assetto cars right behind him as Henry Jocelyn's made a good move there on the inside of Charlie Hart. And Charlie now on the outside looking in, really. He's been hung out to dry onto the Bentley straight and will likely lose 2 or 3 positions as a result. So down into Brundle and Nelson. Freddie Slater, now that surprises me, goes for the race lead up the inside of Reza Samurathan. These two teammates not working together in quite the way I thought they would. That immediately lost them ground. There's a spin further back. One car rotating in the middle of the pack and others scattering in avoidance. That, I think, was Harry Moss going around. Was it the 40? No, it might have been Felix Livesey, 31, who had the rotation. And that could have been an awful lot worse than it was. But yeah, very surprised that Freddie Slater went for the move. I thought he was just going to stay hunkered up behind Reza Samurathan and try and pull a gap on the rest of the pack. That move means that not only does his teammate Mikey Porter close in, but so do the Assetto racing cars behind. So it's now a leading group of 5 making its way across the line. But Freddie Slater will lead the opening lap. That means he's led a lap again in this race, which means he has still kept this unbroken run going all season long. He's now led a lap in every single race this season. Screeching of tyres through Rich's corner as there Hugo Schwarzer in the background is up to 6th already. Now that is significant. Yes, he's lost touch with the leading group, but Hugo Schwarzer is at least at the head of the next group of cars. Can he drag that group towards the leaders? He's got his teammate behind him as well in Charlie Hart, so Elite Motorsport can now work together to try and organise that second group and get them onto the tail of the leading quintet. There are the two Elite Motorsport drivers making their way around Palmer's and down towards Agostini, where the lead group is as tightly bunched as ever. And then in this second pack, it's Schwarzer, Hart, Aidan Robinson and Henry Jocelyn. So Robinson are racing. Jocelyn in behind is running for Prep Tech. But if they choose to form a temporary alliance, at least with the elite cars, they might still have a chance at fighting for podium places. There are the top 3. It's a podium lockout at the moment for our racing, which we've seen a couple of times this year. There is Alicia Palmovsky, meanwhile. So Palmovsky is also gaining some ground because she is now into the top 10, I believe, ahead of Tom Sprague, trying to close in on the group ahead as wide went Chase Fernandez there in 4th. Palmovsky exits Williams, heads onto the Bentley straight. And Alicia Palmovsky also looking for her first ever Ginetta Junior race victory, but she's been close on a number of occasions, has Palmovsky, with 3 second-place finishes and 2 third places. And right behind her, Tom Sprague, who she just knocked out of the top 10 early on in this lap. Out over the curb then, towards the right-hander at the bomb hole. So this, I think, is going to be one of those races that probably comes alive later on. I think for the time being, our racing have control of that lead pack. And look, it's working. They're already starting to pull away from the Assetto racing cars behind. And the question is whether or not Hugo Schwarzer can do anything at least about the 2 Assetto cars. Let's compare lap times then. So the R Racing Brigade will get to the line first. And for Freddie Slater, the race leader, his first full flying lap is a 2:20.6. 2:20.5 for Porter is the fastest lap because he's got the double slipstream. The Assetto teammates doing battle for 4th place there. Harrison diving to the inside of Fernandez. They did 2 minutes 20.7s and 8s. And then the Schwarzer train, 2 minute 20.9. So they're not as quick as the cars ahead right now. Palmovsky at 21.0, although of course she had an overtake on that lap. So they are sort of lapping in packs, aren't they? Almost NASCAR style. It's like watching the Daytona 500, this, with a lead pack and then a chasing pack trying to latch onto their slipstream. But at the moment, it's the leading pack that's going the quickest. Mikey Porter then stealing that fastest lap point away. Now, we've talked a lot about Freddie Slater in this race so far and his dominance in the championship, but for second place, it's a reasonably comfortable margin as well of 54 points for Hugo Schwarzer, there, number 33, over Mikey Porter. So Porter trying to close in slightly on that gap, could do with maybe moving a position or two further up the order, but for now at least is in third with Schwarzer sixth, so that gap creeping down ever so slightly. Charlie Hart is then fourth in the championship. He's the number 50 car there on your screen, with Alicia Palmowski fifth, and those two are only separated by 8 points, the two elite teammates. So at the moment, Hart 3 places ahead of Palmowski after her difficulties in qualifying earlier on today. Leading trio back down the Bentley straight. Snetterton just dropping back a few car lengths from Freddie Slater, but you'll see by the time they get to the braking zone, he'll be right back on his rear bumper. Such is the power of the slipstream, but he does not opt to look to the inside as Slater did on that opening lap. Would that prove to be a decisive move for Freddie? Because having hit the front, we've seen it time and again this season, he's capable of controlling the race. And especially with teammates in line behind, he'll be fancying his chances now, I think. Claiming that 12th race win for the season. Round corner into the braking zone at Murray's. Cars moving around constantly there through the right, into the left. And it just doesn't look like the Assetto cars have the pace, does it? But on this lap, maybe Hugo Schwarzer is starting to close in on them. Certainly Chase Fernandez actually has taken a 10th or so out of Mikey Porter and the rest of the leading group, I think. So the leaders do 20.9s or 21.0s. It's a 20.6 for Fernandez. Personal best lap there for the man in fourth. And Schwarzer at 20.7. So that time, the gaps did come down. The leading trio reeled in a bit by the Assetto racing cars and also by the elite train behind. Car 78, by the way, Reza Snetterton there, second place, being warned about track limits already. He's the only driver so far to be warned about that. And Reza, as he chases down or tries to stay with his race-leading teammate, is struggling to do so without straying beyond the white lines, it would seem. Early in the race to be being warned about that, I would say. As Palmowski drifts wide, almost loses control there in trying not to run wide over the sensors on the exit of Palmer's, turn 3. She has got right behind her Mackenzie Douglas, Luca Hopkinson and Tom Spragg, not able to escape from this group, and Palmowski on the previous lap did a 21.8, so she is consistently about a second slower than the leading group. So Alicia, for whatever reason, struggling a little bit in this one, but Hugo Schwarzer, her teammate there, now actually gapping Charlie Hart in the number 50 car and starting to bridge that gap on his own to the leading group. So Hugo Schwarzer's not done yet, and that might be what this race needs, actually. Throw an elite motorsport driver in there with no one to help him, admittedly, but no loyalty to any of the other cars in the lead group, and Hugo might be able to inject a bit more excitement into this one, because until we get into the final lap or so, I don't expect these R racing cars to break rank. So there is Hugo, the German who has one win to his name this season. That win came at Donington in the opening race of what was a very lively weekend of Ginetta Junior racing. And Hugo Schwarzer came out on top in what was a slightly messy race, and actually Freddie Slater's worst race of the season so far, where, would you believe, he didn't even make it onto the podium. He was still in the top 5. But now that is drama, and that is down at Brundle and Nelson, 47 and 66, 47 Harry Moss, 66 Freddie Allen. They were fighting over 14th place, and that fight has gone awry down at the complex, it looks like. As now we have a leading group of 4 creeping across the line, because Finn Harrison in 5th position, dropping away from the leaders and being reeled in by Schwarzer. Now that's good news for Hugo Schwarzer. Not only is he getting closer to the top 5, but actually that gives him more of a slipstream as well. It's going to benefit him down the straights, and he might even move ahead of Harrison now, because Finn made a big mistake at Riches. Up the inside goes Hugo Schwarzer, and that was made a lot easier than I expected it to be. And if Harrison's any sense, he will now latch on to Hugo, work with him. I know they're not teammates, but you can still form that temporary truce and try and reel in the leaders. Now, there's no truce here, is there? That was a very rough bit of driving, I'd say, from Mackenzie Douglas against Tom Spragg, who gets levered aside, almost allows Luca Hopkinson through. This group is in an entirely different order than they were at the start of the lap. Palmovski's still 10th, but it was Douglas, Hopkinson, Spragg. It is now Douglas, Spragg, Hopkinson, but Tom Spragg was briefly ahead of Douglas there, I think. Hopkinson to the outside of both of them. He's going to get one place, is he? No, couldn't quite get across in front of Tom Spragg, who gets a better run through the middle of the corner, then comes across the Mackenzie Douglas car in front of him, doesn't know which side to go, and in the end opts to follow in the wheel tracks of the 24 machine. That's all allowed Alicia Palmovski to pull away. She's now set for a slightly lonely couple of laps here, unless this group can catch her back up again. Hammering the curbs there, Tom Spragg in the number 16. See the car sort of leap into the air through the right-hander at Oggies, which is an awkward enough corner as it is before you start hitting curbs like that. Then they head down the Bentley straight. Hopkinson trying to use that slipstream, but pulled out almost a bit too early there, I'd have said. Meanwhile, leading group, still a four-way fight because Fernandez is still with them. There is Schwarzer, and Charlie Hart has now got himself, in fact, Charlie Hart and Adu Robinson, I think, have both got ahead of Finn Harrison now, so Harrison's race really unravelling. Did notice earlier on that he had a bit of trim or something hanging down from underneath the car. That won't be helping the aerodynamics of the 38 car. But his teammate, Chase Fernandez, sticking with the R Racing cars well. Now, if they do start fighting ahead of him, all Fernandez needs is to be close enough to take advantage. And right now, he is right in the slipstream of Mikey Porter, who's in the slipstream of his two teammates ahead. It is still, though, Freddie Slater, who continues to lead after 5 racing laps. A few more drivers, by the way, being warned about track limits as well. Number 26, Henry Jocelyn, and 21, Alicia Palmovski, the latest to be warned about that. Leaders go through now. Hugo Schwarzer on that lap, matching the leaders. As there, the dive up the inside from Chase Fernandez. That was a lovely, decisive pass on the brakes into the Wilson hairpin, and Chase Fernandez gets onto the podium. Now that changes the dynamic slightly, because he always kind of had a feeling that Mikey Porter was hanging on to his teammates in front of him there. And now Chase Fernandez saw that opportunity to move through, but he's wide out of Palmer's. And this is going to give Porter a chance to retaliate if he wants to down into Agostini. But again, does he want to? Or does he want to try and work with the number 90 car? Looks like it's the latter of those two options. 6 behind him as they turn into the left-hand hairpin. All the while, Hugo Schwarzer starts to close in again. So whilst his teammate Alicia Palmovski hasn't made the progress we thought she might, Hugo Schwarzer definitely has. Remember, started 9th after that grid penalty. Up into the top 5 already, and I still think has a chance of breaking onto the podium. Lovely move that was, though, from Chase Fernandez, who really has improved as the season has gone on. Fernandez got his 1 podium that he's had so far this season at Silverstone in the 4th race of 6 that weekend. And as he heads down the back straight, he is hoping and praying, I think, that Reza Sarutan starts to apply a bit more pressure to Freddie Slater. Slater a bit wide of the apex there at Nelson. These two start battling. The others are still right in this, but I don't think Sarutan's going to make his move till the final lap now, really. He's got no pressure from behind. Fernandez in the sectors on this lap isn't lapping as quickly as him. So Sarutan really just needs to sit behind Freddie Slater, wait for that run down the back straight on the final lap and make the move, the same move, perhaps, that Freddie made on him on the opening lap of the race. Maybe they will come then, just under 6 minutes to go. That is Felix Livesey off the road, and not looking very happy. Now, we saw him involved in the incident down at Brundle and Nelson, didn't we? He rejoined from that, as did Harry Moss, but unfortunately, Felix has pulled to the side of the road, maybe with some damage, a legacy of that contact. So the lead gap a quarter of a second, you can see that there. Second to third, 1.2 seconds, and it came, it went out on that lap by a couple of tenths, with Fernandez battling with Mikey Porter. Hugo Schwarzer did a 2 minutes 20.6 though, and continues to be the fastest man on the track. He doesn't have the fastest lap of the race, but he is at the moment lapping more quickly than any of the cars around him. Here we see a replay perhaps of what happened then to Harry Moss and Felix Livesey, and they've tangled for a second time. Oh, and a third, technically, down at Agostini. Those two are going to have a conversation, I think, to be had at the end of this race. having tangled once already down at the complex, and that secondary one sending them both into a spin, and Felix Livesey into retirement. Moss has continued, but with a little bit of damage, as we saw. So leaders then heading towards Oggies. Probably 2 more laps to go at the end of this one. Sector 1 times very even. Top 3 all in the 44.3s, as was Schwarzer in fairness. Not much change to the gaps at the head of the field just yet. One out of Williams onto the Bentley straight they go. Car 90 now. Chase Fernandez being warned about track limits. He's just throwing everything at this to try and close in on that group ahead. Already on course for his 2nd podium of the season. Can he still contend for the race win? Well, he's had a hint of that slipstream, I think, down the back straight. Yeah, so this shows the power of the toe. There is a speed trap at the end of that Bentley straight, just underneath the bridge. Race leader Freddie Slater was doing 102.6 miles an hour, which is not slow. It is, however, 3 miles an hour slower than the cars behind, who were all doing 105 miles an hour. So that shows the disadvantage you're at when you're at the front of the group. So what I'm saying is that if Reza Sarurthan can time this right on the final lap, get onto that back straight within a car length or so of Freddie Slater, he's got a chance of beating you into the braking zone. As out wide behind went Mikey Porter. He is not yet being warned about track limits. I think he might be about to be, but joining the list of those potentially in trouble is Freddie Slater. So Freddie Slater, race leader, exceeding track limits once too often as well. Getting warned about it. The black and white warning flag might as well just be strapped permanently to that starting gantry. Plenty of use today. Driving standards flag to warn certain drivers that they're being monitored by race control. So 2 more laps to go then. Freddie Slater leading the way. That time around a 2:20.8 for the leader, 21.0 for Sarurthan in 2nd. Fernandez a 20.8 as well, 21.2 for Porter, 21.1 for Schwarzer. So a couple of tenths in it this way or that, but actually fastest of the lead group was the race leader. As here further back, Tom Spragg looks to attack Luca Hopkins, in fact looks to attack Mackenzie Douglas, who has just attacked him because he's got into 12th place now, Mackenzie Douglas. So Luca Hopkinson 11th at the head of that group. But remember that time they lost to Palmovsky earlier on? Well, they just can't get it back, can they? Alicia Palmovsky is a good 3 seconds or so up the road now. Oh, and that was a little bit of an assist, I think, into Agostini from Tom Spragg against Mackenzie Douglas. No harm, no foul, really, but got a bit too close and maybe was caught out by Mackenzie braking earlier than he thought he would. But, crisis averted. So we started with 3 R racing cars controlling the race. We're now down to 2 of them, but really the man in control is Freddie Slater, because not only has he led every lap so far, he is just keeping Reza Sarurthan at arm's length at the key point of the track, which is the exit of Williams and down this Bentley straight, because by the time they get to the braking zone at Brundle, Sarurthan gets back to the bumper of Freddie Slater, but that's not close enough to make a move. If that was the final lap, then we'd be saying Freddie Slater was pretty much home and dry now, so Sarurthan needs to make that exit from Williams the best exit possible on this next and final lap if he's to have any chance of drawing alongside his teammate Freddie Slater, who is now just over 3 miles away from equaling Ginetta Junior history, getting a 12th career victory. It is, of course, a championship that sees a very high turnover of drivers, particularly those who win races. They tend to only stick around for a season or 2 at most. Jamie Caroline did a part season and then a full campaign on his way to the championship. And Freddie Slater doing this all in one season is particularly impressive. Last lap begins then. Hugo Schwarzer, by the way, just set the fastest lap, a 2:20.4, because he got a little bit closer to Mikey Porter, got a little bit more of a slipstream, and he's now right at the tail of the 4th place man, who is officially being warned about track limits. Now, we're starting to get some penalties for track limits as well. Let's get these 2 through Wilson before I notify you of that, because Porter was really having to defend from Schwarzer, but manages to fend him off on the way through the turn. So 5-second penalties applied to car 16, which is Tom Spragg, and car 48, which is Luca Hopkinson. So both of them are drivers outside of the top 10, but they're both now being given 5 seconds added on to their time, and it's at this part of the race where drivers are really now going to start pushing the limit. They might not be the last penalties we'll see. Hugo Schwarzer to the outside of Mikey Porter here, had his nose ahead in the braking zone at Agostini, but Mikey had the preferred inside line, hangs on. Meanwhile, at the head of the field, Freddie Slater continuing to lead from Riza Saworthan. Remember, it's this next sequence of corners that will be so critical to Saworthan's chances of victories, right with Slater for now, which is where he needs to stay. Schwarzer does now make the move stick at Hamilton against Mikey Porter, having got the switchback out of Agostini, but now he goes on the defence through Oggies. Porter nudging his way up the inside, tapping Morse code on the tail of the Elite Motorsport car and bringing the other elite car of Charlie Hart into the battle too. He's up the inside again through Williams, leaning on Schwarzer, and Charlie Hart could get the pair of them. They get so preoccupied with each other they forgot about Charlie Hart, who's got the run. So too though has Riza Saworthan. Pulls to the outside of Freddie Slater for the race lead with less than half a lap to go. The two are racing teammates almost banging wing mirrors, both of them desperately late on the brakes. Saworthan round the outside through Brundle, gets the inside for Nelson, but Freddie Slater is still there. Two wheels on the dirt. Saworthan goes through surely as they turn into the bomb hole, and now it could be a first career victory in the championship for Saworthan. No, Slater gets the switchback out of the bomb hole, up the inside through Coram Corner, and Freddie Slater has gone back to the front. Fabulous racing between the two teammates. They've brought Chase Fernandez back onto their tail as well as they turn through Murray's for the final time. It will be a drag race to the line, and Freddie Slater did not get a good exit. He took too much apex curb there at Murray's corner. I don't think it's going to cost him the win, but it gives Saworthan half a chance of getting alongside. It's not quite going to happen. It is a record-equaling 12th career victory in Ginetta Juniors for Freddie Slater. Riza Saworthan second, almost got his first win, with Chase Fernandez back on the podium for the second time this season. Hugo Schwarzer is fourth. Adu Robinson ends up fifth, by the way, ahead of Mikey Porter, sixth, who I think was given a track limits penalty there. Charlie Hart dropped down to seventh on the final scoring, with Henry Jocelyn eighth, Finn Harrison ninth, and Alicia Palmowski completing the top 10. Well, it was a slow burner, that race, by Ginetta Junior standards, but I did tell you it would all come to life on the final lap, and it absolutely did, as Riza Saworthan and Freddie Slater congratulate each other on what was a terrific battle there between the teammates. And, well, for Freddie Slater, that is a 12th career victory in Ginetta Juniors, which equals Jamie Caroline's record. We've still got nearly half the year to go, though. He's almost certainly going to break that record, and could even do it tomorrow, because there are two more races to go this weekend for Ginetta Juniors before they head to Cadwell Park, Brands Hatch and Donington Park to end the season. Well, here was the replay. At this point, I thought Saworthan had done it, to be honest, around the outside at Brundle, bought himself a ticket then to the inside line at Nelson. Scrabbling for grip, the pair of them. Brilliant shots here from the super slow-mo camera. Brilliant racing from Riza Saworthan and Freddie Slater. Saworthan got up the inside then through Nelson Corner. Kept it as tight as he could, avoided the sausage curb, but there, the little rub, I thought, had cost Slater the win. He ran wide onto the dirt, but crucially just kept a small overlap. The right front corner of Slater's car was able to stay level with the left rear of Saworthan's on the run down into the bomb hole, and then he got the switchback through the quick right-hander. Got the inside for Coram. It was brilliant racing, fantastic battle. Might not have been a race full of positional changes, as we used to see from Ginetta Juniors, but the bit of side-by-side racing we had there at the end was absolutely terrific. Getting confirmation on the timing screen now, by the way, that Mikey Porter was given a 5-second track limits penalty, so that explains why he dropped down the order somewhat, with Adu Robinson getting himself into the top 5 as a result, because he not only benefited from that, but found a way ahead of Charlie Hart on the final lap, whilst Hugo Schwarzer's recovery from 9th on the grid got him in the end as far as 4th. So wasn't quite able to get up there and contest for a podium or a race win, was Hugo. Still a good effort, that. Now, race 2 tomorrow will have a grid based upon the second fastest lap times from qualifying, where Slater will be on pole, Fernandez will be second, and Mikey Porter will be third, with Hugo Schwarzer 4th. So looking for Riza Saworthan. Now, Riza Saworthan only managed one clean flying lap. They're limited in Ginetta Juniors to 3 flying laps over the session, and it's a unique qualifying format that I actually really enjoy. And Riza Saworthan only had one legal lap, so his second fastest lap time was disallowed, and he will start at the back. So that was Riza's best opportunity in a way for a race victory this weekend. Freddie Slater, though, celebrates as he gets out of the car. The R Racing team are there to congratulate him. He receives the winner's cap, which promptly falls on the floor, but that's the least of his worries right now, because Freddie Slater is now one win away from breaking a record that many thought might never be beaten. I mean, the number of race wins in a season one, that certainly wasn't expected to be beaten, but Jamie Caroline, legend of Ginetta Junior Racing, didn't expect to see his career-winning record beaten. So, Freddie Slater and Reza Samurathan making an R-Racing 1-2 after a fantastic final lap battle, which saw Freddie Slater briefly lose the lead, but then equally quickly get it back. Chase Fernandez came home in third place for Assetto Racing, back on the podium again, with Hugo Schwarzer from ninth on the grid, climbing to fourth. Then it was Aidan Robinson fifth, Charlie Hart losing out on the last lap, fell to sixth ahead of Henry Jocelyn and Mikey Porter, the first of 3 drivers to be handed 5-second penalties. Finn Harrison was ninth, Alicia Palmosky only 10th in the end, but disappointed with that, I would imagine. Mackenzie Douglas was 11th after a great battle with Luca Hopkinson and Tom Spragg, who finished 12th and 13th respectively. Freddie Allen was 14th, Holly Mile 15th, whilst Harry Moss and Felix Livesey just couldn't get away from each other in that race until their last bit of contact saw Felix Livesey spin into retirement. So, 17 cars took the start, 16 reached the flag, but Ginetta Junior's 450th race was a very tactical affair in the moment, with the 3 R-Racing cars locking out the top 3 positions on the grid, and once they fended off an early challenge from Finn Harrison into turn 1, those 3 really did control the bulk of the race. Hugo Schwarzer was making good progress right from the start after receiving a 3-place grid penalty after an incident at Silverstone last time out. He was one of the real hard chargers of the race, whilst Tom Spragg and Luke Hopkinson got very up close and personal through the Wilson hairpin on lap 1. A surprising move made towards the end of the opening lap by Freddie Slater saw him nip up the inside of his pole-sitting teammate Reza Samurathan to claim the race lead, and there he would stay for the bulk of the race, whilst behind the first little tangle between Livesey and Harry Moss saw them drop to the back of the field. Chase Fernandez got ahead of his teammate into fourth, then made a lovely move up the inside of Mikey Porter for third. Porter's race would start to unravel from this point on as he faded from the lead group and would ultimately be given a time penalty. This was the final bit of contact between Felix Livesey and Harry Moss. Once, twice, both of them went around, and that ultimately would take Livesey out of the race. Then on the final lap, Samurathan made his move, went round the outside of Freddie Slater into Brundle, got the inside for Nelson, and looked as though he'd made the move stick. Slater got elbowed out slightly onto the dirt, but then got a pivotal switchback coming out of the bomb hole, got the inside for Coram, and Freddie Slater held on to claim his 12th career victory in the Ginetta Junior Championship.